going to be like, I can't hear me anyway. Good morning, everybody. This is Jesse Paul with the Larkin Group, Keller Williams Realty, with the Southern Utah Real Estate Morning Drive, where typically we would be the St. George Morning Real Estate Drive. Today, we've got a guest on that we're going to take this more Southern Utah and actually more real estate in general. So we are going to be playing this show in Cedar City as well. This morning I've got, because Jeremy, we sent him off to another real estate conference to get smart. If we want to keep growing, we got to keep up with today's technologies and just all the moving parts that are coming at us. So today I've got my one of my favorite guests of all time, Carl Wright. He's with R1 Appraisals. And if you ever need an appraisal or just some of the best knowledge about home values, this is the guy.
Thank you, Jesse. It's always fun to be on the show. Thank you for the invite and having me on the show today. It's always fun to be with you. Thank you.
You bet, man. And interesting. I want to go back to what they just talked about. Sewell, is it?
Yeah, Penny Sewell.
So we were listening
Penny
to.
Sewell.
Yeah.
We were just listening to Andy talk about Penny Sewell, who went to Desert Hill High School.
Yeah, I went to Desert Hills, and now he's the highest paid offensive lineman in the NFL. And he's a local guy, right? Isn't that so fun?
Southern Utah.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, we actually have a lot of people in the NFL from Southern Utah. His brothers play also in the NFL, and there's a few others that from Southern Utah. So we've got some really good exposure. In fact, I heard an interesting statistic the other day. Per capita, Utah is in the top 5 states in the nation for producing NFL players. Top 5.
Way.
They're ahead of California, ahead of Texas.
Wow.
And I think the southern states, Alabama, Florida, Louisiana, they're above Utah. But per capita of how many residents we have, we are in the top 5 of that produce people that go to the NFL. Is that kind of cool?
I'll tell you what else they produce, and this is totally a made-up statistic by Jesse Paul. is some of the nicest people.
That's true.
I've lived all over the United States, and especially Southern Utah is some of the most friendly people I've ever met.
It's true. I get that all the time too. I mean, when I'm in people's homes doing appraisals for people, and I always ask them, "Where are you from?" And ask them, "Well, why did you move to Utah out of all the places you could have moved?" You know, and inevitably the people are in their top responses, you know.
And I really believe it's a big part of what makes Southern Utah so attractive.
Yeah. Because,
I went to school in Las Vegas for 5 years. Not too long ago, I was a late bloomer, right? And I was, while I was going to school, I was a waiter at the Cheesecake Factory. And I'll tell you what, the difference in not only the adults, but the kids. And how kind they are.
And being a waiter, that'll tell you what people really are, right? That'll reveal their true character, if they're kind at heart or if they're mean at heart, right? So that's one of the toughest jobs.
Yeah, and so people come here from, whether it's Las Vegas, whether it's California, whether it's Washington, wherever else it is. We are just a much milder, kinder population.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, but there's a lot of things that play into that, right? Our weather, number one. So people love Southern Utah because of the nice weather we have. I mean, hasn't it been an amazing spring? It's been so nice this spring, and it seems like it's been an actual spring where it just didn't jump from 60, 40, 50, 60 degrees to 100 degrees. We've had a really nice spring. So
that's true. It only got to 80 a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's been really nice.
Low 90s a little bit. We dabbled into that, but I think that's what affects people's attitudes and why they're so kind. You get outside and you get some vitamin D. It just makes you happy.
You get the sunshine 300 days a year, and it's going to make you happy.
It makes you happy. So we really live in one of the most beautiful places on earth, right? In my opinion, and that's why we choose to live here.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Speaking of spring, let's talk about, because we're gearing up for, April, May, June. Are the
hottest.
May and June are the 2 hottest times to sell homes. So let's talk about one of the biggest questions, and how this actually started. You had a buddy of yours call you yesterday, was it?
Yeah, it was a couple of days ago. I was talking to an investor friend of mine who is from out of state. He loves to flip homes here in Southern Utah, and I've helped him price several. I come in and he finds an older house and he wants to remodel it, and so I'll come in and I'll give him an as-is value, what it's worth right now in the as-is condition, and then he'll tell me what he's going to do to the house, and I'll give him a proposed value or a subject to value of what if you do these types of things, this is the type of value that you can expect in 2 or 3 or 4 months, however long it takes you. So I've done several of those with him, and he's a really knowledgeable guy, really, really great. But he said something to me that was really, really, really interesting that I've been pondering about. He said, Carl, I'm noticing 2 things. The houses for sale in Southern Utah right now are either new construction, brand new construction, or they're these old homes that haven't been updated or haven't touched in the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years in some cases, right? And so you either have you really nice houses or these really dilapidated homes, and there's not a lot of in between. And so I've been thinking about that and why that is, and I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I have a comment of, I think there are the middle ones coming on, but they are selling so fast.
So fast, yeah.
That you don't even notice they're there.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
But I would agree that we don't have enough of them coming on the market.
We still have a tremendous amount of people that are waiting to buy houses.
I think so.
Sitting on the sidelines.
And that's for a couple reasons. You and I talked about one of them. If you're sitting on a 3% mortgage, if you make a move right now, your mortgage will, even with a substantial down payment, your mortgage is going to be significantly higher.
Right.
So people are like, man,
why would I move?
I can't do it.
Why would I move? Right.
The other piece is people trying to time the market. They think, well, finally the market's going to crash again. Yeah. So I think those two pieces are why the market has stagnated a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. So we two thoughts. We don't have enough inventory because there's people that want to sell, and because they don't want to jump at interest rates. And the second thought just left me. Second thought was we, if you're not going to sell your home, why would you, what are the things that I can do if I'm going to stay in my home that will help me increase the value of my house over time? Right. When I am ready to sell it, what are the things I can do to my house that will help me sell the house when I'm ready to sell it? And what brings the most value? So that was another conversation I had yesterday with a good friend. He's got some money that he wants to invest or do some things, and he said, should I build an accessory dwelling unit? What should I do with this extra cash? How's that going to work best for me? And I had a great conversation with him.
I want to point out something you said. What will bring the most value? And I want to point out what we're going to be talking about is what will bring the most value to me if I turn around and sell it, right?
Right.
So that's the key piece that we're going to be talking about, not what will bring the most value. Because, like, for instance, a kitchen will bring you a lot of value, but you won't get it back.
You won't get it back, right?
Right.
We're talking about return on investment, right? ROI.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So if you're staying in your home and you want to update your home, what's going to be the best value that you can get for your house once you decide to sell? So, number one, declutter your house.
Right.
Best thing you can do. Declutter your house. Great curb appeal. And nobody wants to buy a house there's a ton of stuff in the front yard, ton of stuff in the bedrooms, in the closets and things like that. Declutter your house. That's number one.
And really think, if I was a buyer, what would I want? What would be the best way this could look to me? Right. I had a conversation a couple weeks ago with a seller, and they were hemming and hawing about what they wanted to do. And we were talking about the front curb appeal. And he's like, yeah, I just don't want to spend the money. And then I turned around and had a conversation with Jeremy about his house that he's getting ready to sell. And his question was not how much it's going to cost me. What would the buyer want?
Right.
What would the buyer think? And I thought, wow, how much more valuable of a question is that versus do I have to?
Right. Right. It's very true. And it's
not that you have to do everything, but
and
certain things it makes more sense.
It makes more sense, right? And as an appraiser, all the appraisers, we're like the ultimate home buyer, right? Like we have to put ourselves in the shoes of how the general market views a particular house. So we look at houses all day long. I mean, I'm in 3 or 4 houses a day sometimes, and so I look at how does the general market respond to this house? Why did it take so long to sell? Or whoa, this was only on the market for 1 day. Why? Right? And so we're trying to decipher and figure out why the house only sat on the market for so long and things like that. So
versus why did it sit for so long? Right?
Exactly. So we're like the ultimate home buyer. So it's kind of fun to see to walk into these different houses and see the selling points. So the number one thing, declutter your house. The number two thing that I think most people are looking for is your remodeled bathrooms. I'm not talking about a major remodel. Right. I'm talking about refreshing and updating your bathroom. You could go in and go crazy and put $20,000, $30,000 into a bathroom, and you may not get that out of it when you decide to sell it. But I'm talking about new countertops in the bathroom. That's a really inexpensive way to freshen up your master bathroom. New countertops, painting the cabinets, very inexpensive. New hardware on the drawers, new faucet,
maybe painting new trim,
a new light over your mirror, a new mirror that isn't dated from the 1990s, or something that's a little more fresh and modern. The colors that are in. Look at the trends that are in right now. A lot of cold colors, right? Yeah. White and grays and things like that.
Yeah, that's so. I've got a question for you. And we didn't even talk about this. So if you've got a home that was built in, let's say 2011,
okay,
but it's 4,000 square feet,
okay,
does it make sense to go in and paint that whole interior? Can you get it back when it's that big?
That's pretty big, right? That's a big,
because and it's still those same colors, right?
Right. If they're earth tones, you may not get that out of it, right? And so you may be spending $20,000 to repaint that whole house,
right?
And you may not get $20,000 out of it. So is it better to list that house hypothetically at $500,000 or paint it and try to list it at $520,000? Are you going to get that value? The market will dictate, but you're rolling the dice there. Okay. My experience has been that it's better not to do that and take the $500,000 on something that big, right?
Because it's been our experience that carpet and paint typically will always more than pay for itself.
Yes, it really does. But on a big house,
when I'm looking at a 4,000 square foot home, I'm like, man, will it really?
Right.
And I never had the answer, so I'm glad that you brought that up.
It's I would tend to say on a big house like that, it's better just to let somebody who wants it the way they want it come in and do that type of stuff.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
On a big house. On a smaller house that's 1,500 square feet,
it's different.
Now it makes a little bit more
Now I
sense.
think you'll actually get it back plus some.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, plus quite a bit.
Right? So the national statistics will tell you that if you freshen up your bath, not remodel, but freshen up your master bathroom, you'll get about 105% return on that.
That's a good return.
That's a pretty good return.
That's probably one of the highest.
Yes, it is. And that's the highest return you're going to get is freshening up, not a full remodel, but just freshening up your master bathroom. That's the best thing that you could do right now if you want to have the best return on value for your money in your house right now. So
interesting.
Yeah. And the other thing that doesn't cost a lot of money, it's a process and it gets dirty, is opening up your kitchen, dining, and living room. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So if you've got a wall,
if you can take it out, take it out. And it may cost you a few $1,000s, but the ROI on that is really high.
I would actually agree with that because I can't tell you how many times we talk to buyers, and that is what they want now.
They want a gathering place.
99% want an open.
They want a gathering place.
Floor plan.
Mom wants to be able to see the kids, what they're watching on TV while she's cooking dinner. If you've got guests over, you want to be able to socialize. And we always, I'm a food guy. I love love food, right? And it's all about food. And so when we want to cook and watch the Super Bowl and do those things while but we're interacting together, right? We're looking for that connection. And so, but back in the in the mid 19th century or 1950s and 60s, it was all segregated, right? Like we didn't want, the kitchen was completely separate from the living room. We didn't want to see anybody in the kitchen and things like that. So it's just interesting. So now everybody wants this open floor concept. So
it would be interesting to see if it would actually be worth it, even if it's a load-bearing wall, how much that would cost versus, the actual value it would bring to a buyer.
Right.
It might actually even be worth it then.
Right. I haven't gone into that whole, the load-bearing and things like that, but it's if you can open it up, I would suggest you do.
So I want to go back to something that we talked about in the very beginning, and I want your perspective, because you said that the biggest value you could bring to your home, number one, is decluttering. So in an appraisal, how much of that affects the appraisal? It
doesn't affect the appraisal as much, right? It affects the curb appeal. It affects somebody's eye, right? So they want that. So if somebody comes in and they're much more willing to pay a little bit higher value as appraisers, we get this question all the time.
Well, I would argue against that because here's why. Because everybody's human. And if you have an appraiser that goes in and they just have they did a good job, versus, man, this thing really needs some work. I actually believe that can have an effect. Maybe it's not a big one, but our mindset affects every job we do.
For sure. I would agree with that. But I can't be biased because somebody left their clothes on the floor as an appraiser, right?
You can't, but your mental state.
The mental state, I agree with you. I agree with that.
And buyers are the same way. Yeah. And I brought that up for this one reason. Buyers are the same way. If they're coming into our home and they're having to mentally or visually overpass our mess, it will absolutely have an effect on the offer that they put in, if they actually put one in.
Right.
And I believe that same effect could be for everybody that enters that house.
I agree with you, but a buyer has a lot more interest than the appraiser, right? The appraiser's not moving his stuff into the house. He's not visualizing, okay, my couch is going to go there, and you know what I mean? Like a buyer would. So we're not looking at as if this is going to be our home. Right, we're looking at the structure and things like that. So when I referenced that, I meant to say I should have referenced it like as appraisers, it doesn't affect our value as much as it would a potential buyer. You're going to get a higher price from a buyer if it's decluttered and looks clean and things like that.
Okay, and as such, the appraiser's trying to meet that value, and the more we can do as a seller to help them, the closer it will be.
Right. It's true. So as appraisers, we're trying to find out where the meeting of the minds occurred, right? We're looking at a lot of different things from the time it was on the market, how long was it exposed to the open market, how many offers have there been, how many showings have there been, how much the listing history will tell me a lot about how the general population will respond to that particular house. So that will tell me, that tells the story of what the market is willing to do and willing to pay for this. And then as we decipher that, then we say, okay, I look at that, and then we choose some comparables that are similar in style, in square footage, and upgrades, and updating, and things like that, and then we make some adjustments based on how the market reacts to that.
Yeah. So we just had one of those this morning that I was actually surprised the appraisal came in lower than it did, right? Just because of the neighborhood. Yeah. It is in a really nice neighborhood that typically values are higher than this house is. They made some mistakes when they were building it, but you did the appraisal, and I mentioned it. I said, "Wow, I was really surprised about that." And you said, "I have to take into consideration the whole aspect of this." I mean, it's been on the market a long time, and that does affect the value that I can, logically give it.
Right. Right. And that's ultimately why we came in where we did,
Right.
is because it had sat on the market. I can't remember. It was close to 120 days or longer. I can't remember.
Longer.
A lot longer
Much
than that.
longer.
Much
They
longer.
started so high.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with no matter what the market's doing.
Yeah.
If you start chasing the market,
I was just going to say that.
the overcorrection that you have to do, especially in a weird market when it's going down, that it has been over the last couple of years, you have to overcorrect so drastically in order to get in front of it, or you just chase it and chase it and chase it.
It's like you've thrown a ball down the hill and it just
And you
keeps
just
rolling,
keep
and you
kicking
just
it.
got to keep you're chasing that ball, and
Yeah.
the ball represents home values, and it's just going to keep going
That's
down
what
the
happened
hill.
with that house.
Yeah, that
and,
makes
and there
sense.
was just
Nothing you could do.
yeah, they finally caught it. But that's after the market finally stabilized.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It finally last quarter finally stabilized and started to come back a little bit.
Yeah.
But until then, he couldn't get in front of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Timing wasn't great on that one.
No, it wasn't.
I feel like the market is starting to correct itself a little bit. We're stabilizing,
It seems to be.
I anticipate, and most people anticipate the market in 2024. I mean, here we are. We're already into the second quarter of 2024, which is
And
crazy.
we're already year over year better than we were last year.
We are. I was just looking at those numbers. And we're about 1% over of where we were last year. So excuse me, I wouldn't say we were in an increasing market. I would
right.
call that a stable market.
It's finally stabilized.
Finally
right.
stabilized. But I mean, it's going to take one move by the feds to lower interest rates. And like we talked as we opened up the show, all those people that are sitting on the sidelines waiting to get a house, as soon as those interest rates come down, the values are going to go skyrocket because we don't have the inventory. We still don't have the inventory.
First time in history, we've actually had a buyer's market and a seller's market at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? Data wise, we're in a seller's market. Buyer behavior wise, we've been in a buyer's market.
Yeah.
First time in history, and it's because of interest rates. We still don't have enough inventory.
We don't. And so as soon as those floodgates open,
and with sellers sitting on the fence,
Yeah.
we just haven't had.
Yeah, it's true.
It's going to be interesting to see where that goes.
These markets are hard to navigate, and that's why it's good to have a professional.
Pretty hard to price a home right now.
Pretty hard to price a home. It's good to have a professional to help you price your home, like people on the Larkin Group. Like you guys do an amazing job pricing. I know that when I pull up to a listing that's part of the Larkin Group, it's been listed properly, and we most of the time. And if you're having a hard time, you always call us. We appreciate that and the help that we can provide you as a real estate agent and helping you price your homes and it's nice to be able to partner with people who live this and breathe this and do this every single day. So
yeah. Well, if you're just joining us, so I've been interviewing Carl Wright, and we've been talking about what are the things that we can do to absolutely give us more value in our home.
Yeah.
And the first one was decluttering. Really, just declutter your house, make it look as presentable as possible.
Yep.
Number two is carpet and paint. It's not too large.
Yep.
The third one was curb appeal. And what was the other one?
Refreshing the bathroom. Master bathroom.
Actually, that's the number one thing right now, right? As far as
returning your value.
What buyers are looking for is doing that. Yep. So, Carl, how does we get a hold of you? If somebody needs to talk about the market or get an appraisal?
I'd love to help anybody that has questions. You can find us on the web at r1appraisal.net or my cell phone. You can call me anytime. Usually just search us on Google. We're on Google. Yeah. R1 Appraisals.
R1 Appraisals. That's the number one appraisals in St. George and actually all over Utah, right?
Yeah, we're actually Utah, Idaho, Phoenix, Vegas, Mesquite. We're kind of we've got 5 offices now.
Really great appraiser and does a really good job. And if you want to join us or talk to us at the Larkin Group, just Google the Larkin Group or go to gostgeorge.com or gocedarcity.com, and we'd love to chat.
Thanks for having me today, Jesse. You're always you were the man. I really appreciate you.
And real quick, for people that have been thinking about buying a home, we are actually having a Your First Home workshop this evening at the Larkin Group headquarters, right downtown St. George, 695 East Tabernacle. Reach out to us today if you want to get involved in that in RSVP. We're going to be feeding you dinner, and we're going to be talking about how you can go from today, whether it's a year or 6 months, how you can actually come up with a plan to purchase a home in this crazy market. can it still be affordable in the most unaffordable time in history? And we're finding ways to do that, whether it's creative ways or just straightforward ways. We are finding ways to get buyers into home and helping them figure out how to do it.
Love it.
So thanks for having us. This has been Jesse Paul and Carl Wright with the Larkin Group, Keller Williams Realty, and R1 Appraisals.
Thanks so much.
Over and out.